sessions will be category pengalaman pembelajaran immersive. Before that, let me introduce a little bit about Dr. Lim. His name is Associate Professor Dr. Lin Chiliong. He is the first notable individual from a private university in Malaysia to be awarded the prestigious National Academic Award Anugerah Akademik Negara AAN in 2014 by the Ministry of Education Malaysia for his innovative teaching methodologies. His immense experience and capability have been most evident in his recent roles of Director of E-Learning Academy, ELA, and Director of Learning Innovation and Development, LID, and the Center for Future Learning. Tillis University, where he successfully raised the profile of the university in the area of learning innovation and creativity in teaching, and made Tillis University always being at the forefront of transformational teaching and learning journey, as well as emerge as national champions in various teaching learning related awards and competition. So without further ado, I welcome Dr. Lim to share her prestigious moment and knowledge impact. You're welcome.
Thank you. All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Siti Nokarina. First of all, thank you for inviting me to come and share with all of you about the Akri. Like what I mentioned just now, I think for the last 2 years, JPT has stopped organizing the Akri because of the pandemic, and we really hope that this year we are able to bring back the Akri so that we are able to hear more success stories from academics, nationwide. So let me share my screen now. Every time when I was invited to talk about Akri, I always start with two advices. Number one is, in order for you to win the game, the most important part is you need to take part, you need to participate. You never know your potential until you participate in the contest. This is the similar advice we give to all our Tillis academics as well. Akri was, I think, first organized in 2017. 2017. Before that, the name was APRS, if you can still remember. So I was the pioneer group who is invited for this APRS and then subsequently Akri. The good thing about the pioneer is we get to know, we get to learn, we get to evaluate a lot of portfolios. So at the same time, we actually learned to see, wow, these are all the best practices from different universities for us to learn. But at the same time, the disadvantage of the to be the panel will be panel are not allowed to participate. Right. So for the last few years, we never got a chance to participate because if you're in a panel, you are not allowed to join the competition. And if you want to join the competition, you need to step down as the panel and wait for at least 1 year before you can participate. So this is the first advice. Please go and submit your applications when it is open so that you are able to know about your potential, you are able to know about your readiness. We keep remind our colleagues about no point keep attending workshop, but at the end you are not submitting it. And I hope that this workshop is to encourage you to submit, not the other way around. Not like, wow, after listening to Lim and then say, wow, this is so difficult, I don't think I want to go for it. Because all the winners I'm going to share with you later also, I don't think this is the first time of submission. They get through a few rounds before they emerge as a winner. And number two, which is more important advice, is to win the game, you need to understand the rules of the game. So that's why I think Dr. Ma'an and myself, we are here today to share with you the rules of the game so they understand better, what are the elements that the panel are looking at when evaluating your portfolio. So as we know, the previous Akri, there are different categories. So I'm going to focus on this category called pengalaman pembelajaran immersive. So it's an immersive learning experience. In this category, there are three subcategories. We have the face-to-face, bersemuka, we have blended, teradun, and also we have fully online, immersive, virtual, Maya. And so there are three subcategories, and each subcategory, there'll be a first prize, second prize, third prize. So under this immersive learning category, previous experience was there are altogether 9 winners, right? In the whole country, there are 9 winners, right? This is some definition, right? This is some definition in case you like, you are keen to know about which category to go for. Right? I believe right now, I think we are quite familiar with this definition already, right? And to determine which categories to go to, you need to look at your SLT, right? Student learning time. If the modules delivery is mainly more than 70% face-to-face, then you need to go for the bersemuka category. If more than 80% of your SLT are delivered online, then you need to go for the Maya category. And of course, the middle part, 30 to 80% will be the blended learning. All this depends on your learning outcomes. When we submit our innovation for this competition, we are actually not throwing the whole syllabus inside, right? You need to pick what are the elements of, I would say, surprise you want to share with the panel, right? So you may teach us modules, for example, let's say Thermodynamics 101, right? In the Thermodynamics 101, you have 14 weeks of delivery, but out of 14 weeks, which part do you think is eligible? Which part do you think stand a chance to win? So perhaps you just want to take your delivery from week number 4 to week number 7. And this is a part that you introduce an innovation, right? So that's why we say for this submission, sekurang-kurangnya satu learning outcome is sufficient. You do not need to cover all the learning outcomes, because when you cover all the learning outcomes, then you may dilute your innovation. Then the panel may say that, hey, this is all nothing. It's not something special, because you want to talk about everything. But if you just take one learning outcomes and you explain to us how we have delivered it in a very immersive manner, yes. So this is one of the key tips that I'm sharing with all of you, right? Sekurang-kurangnya satu. So normally it's 1 or 2 is sufficient already. No need to cover all the learning outcomes, right? And of course, these are some of the topics, right? Maya, Adun, bersemuka, that you can have a look at it. Give us some idea. These are the previous winning titles as well. For the bersemuka, this is about life skills. Yeah. So all these titles, all these winning titles, I took from my colleagues from Taylor's. Life skills, that means how the modules are delivered in a very immersive manner to equip students with the life skills, which required for them to succeed in the 4th Industrial Revolution. So because the modules are delivered mainly hands-on, maybe mainly face-to-face, that's why we go for the bersemuka category. The Maya one, I think, is quite clear-cut. If your for this one is the hubungan etnik, the whole modules are delivered online, and then they call this as the participatory open online course. As you know from the name, this is a Maya category. And another one, blended or adun, is how you design an interactive and engaging module site in LMS using a model called Rasa model. Right? So this is the different ways for you to strategize whether you want to go for bersemuka, Maya, or teradun. Yeah, so just to highlight, these are the panel in 2019. So on the panels, we are reminded that we are not representing our own university. Okay? So we are not representing whether you are representing IIUM, UKM, UPM, Taylor's. No, we are here is to dig out what are the innovations that deserve to be recognized, right? Deserve to be recognized. And because this category, we have three subcategories. That's why our group is actually the largest group in terms of the panel. Of course, the panel appointment is on the yearly basis. So we don't know who are the panel for the coming year or for this year. And these are some of the syarat permohonan. Again, I'm sharing with all of you based on the information in 2019. Right? When the 2022 version is out, please make sure you look at the latest version. Why? Because some of the common mistake is we realize that in 2019, some of the permohonan still using 2018 punya form. Right? So immediately, this entry will be disqualified. Yeah. So this is for individual, can be for a group as well, and one pernyataan setiap individual. So you alone, you can only participate in one category, and it needs to be endorsed, right, by the BC. Yeah. So meaning to say that the universities allowed you to represent the university to participate. Right? This is the marking rubrics, rationale, pendekatan, students' involvement, keterlibatan pelajar, keberkesanan, the effectiveness. Yeah. Different categories. When I say different categories, meaning the categories that I'm explaining and the categories that Dr. Ma'an will be explaining to you all later. These are the two different categories. Yeah. So the distribution of the marks may be slightly different. Yeah. But for all the three subcategories under this immersive, right? So remember the three subcategories: the Maya, the blended, and also the face-to-face. All are sharing the same the assessment, the criteria. So what is important is what is the approach you want to know? How is your students' involvement? Do you have any evidence to share with us? And also need to show us the evidence of the effectiveness. Let me show you some example. Yeah, so these are all the forms there, and all the forms. Yeah. Yes. First is select a category. Right. Sometimes you may think that Maya also okay, Bersemuka also okay, blended also okay for me. Then you need to think about which category you stand a better chance to win. Right. Then, all right, all these are the information. Right? Your Akri kumpulan, we want to know about what is their role, their peranan here, so that you don't put everyone out, don't put all your friends inside. And you want to know what is their specific role and who is the ketua kumpulan. Yeah, ketua kumpulan is important. Yeah. Normally when the entry is shortlisted for pitching, then the ketua kumpulan will present it or come for the pitching. Okay, so this is the common one. Now, what is your title? So the title must be something very, very, very catching. Right? Must be something very attractive that make the panel want to read more. So if I look at the title, and then it seems like nothing. Right? So the first impression is already say, this is not an innovation. And so think about a title that are able to capture the essence of the innovation. Yeah, and then I mentioned about the learning outcomes, the SLT, and then synopsis. Yeah, so this is the first part. Rationale. How many percentage for rationale? 10%. Remember? Right, you talk about rationale here. Rationale 10%. Right. And for this 10% rationale, what do you need to do? We need to answer D1 and D2. So as I think as a lecturers, we know if let's say it's 10% and it's divided into two parts, then you know first part is 5 marks, second part is another 5 marks. Quite clear cut. Yeah. So now you'll be able to start answering about what is the issue, what problems are you solving. We really want to know what is the problem and also what is the objective. So I give you an idea. Right? These are all the winning projects. Right? So these are the previous winners and how they actually elaborate the rationale. You can see here, number one is they always highlight the keywords, easier for the panel to read. Yeah, so you need to understand the panel. For this category, we receive a lot. Right? We receive a lot of entries. So to stand out from the from the rest, I think you need to, number one is put some infographic there as well. Infographics are not counted as words lah, right? So now put some infographics there and then explain to us what is the rationale. Right? So we talk about want to increase social awareness, right? Want to make students to be able to become more resilient, critical thinking, discovering their own or true potential. Right? So that's why the subject is introduced to them. Yeah. So this is how you do it. Then we move on to the pendekatan. Pendekatan, just I mentioned, got 30 marks, right? 30 marks. And how many parts? Pendekatan, we have E1, E2, and E3. So pendekatan, then we know, oh, E1 is 10 marks, E2 is 10 marks, E3 is 10 marks, right? So you know these three are equally important. And what are we looking at? We look at number one is what is your approach? Number two is how you prepare, how this project is de-recarbonto, right? Is redesigned, right? Or designed to provide a meaningful learning experience to our students. And we want to know whether this project scalable or not, transferable or not, and also whether you are able to explain in a very systematic manner. So some example to share with you. Right. So the pendekatan, I would want to know about what is your approach. And the best way to explain our approach is you show us a model. Right. No point elaborate, and then make us so confused. And you need to know about panel come from different discipline. Panels come from different discipline. Right. So example, if let's say I am not the engineering background, and then I'm reading your engineering innovation, and you throw me all the technical terms, I may not be able to appreciate it. Right? I may get confused about this. So what you need to do is you need to explain it in a very easy to understand manner, infographic manner, so that regardless of the discipline, the panels are able to appreciate the hard work and also learn from you, which is more important. Right? So if I read the portfolio and then I don't think I can learn from you, or I just make me more confused, then this is not a good portfolio. Right? So another colleague, his or her approach is about RASA model. Right? So you say, okay, my approach is about RASA model, and this is what I mean by RASA. RASA here meaning resource, activities, supports, and assessment. So these are the model that the participants used to explain the pendekatan. Yeah. So another one to talk about how, give me evidence about how you have provide the meaningful learning experience to students. Yeah, of course, you can elaborate. You can provide some descriptions. But what we want to know is easy to understand. Show us a diagram. Say, okay, this is the evidence of how my students are able to provide meaningful experience in their learning. So, you know, they collaborate. Right? They have the visual learning, interaction, self-paced learning. Yeah, and then this process is called triple I. I can't recall what is triple I, right? But in the description, they actually mentioned about this. And same goes to the last part, scalable, transferable. Then you start to give statistics and also systematic. Let me see whether got any systematic. No, I don't have it. Right. So sejauh manakah pendekatan tersebut systematic? So this is a part that engineering is very strong in explaining it. So what is the best way to show that your pendekatan is systematic? Through some process flow, right? Through some step-by-step guidance. And so when I read it as a panel, then I say, oh, all right, this is how you do it. Right, step one, this is what. Step two, this is how you do it. Step three. Yeah, so this is what we say systematic. Then transferable. Transferable here meaning, can it be applied in other disciplines or not? Can it be applied outside your university or not? Scalable here meaning, how many students benefits from your innovation? Is it only 10 or this is 100 and then it's possible to extend to 1,000? Yeah. So you need to provide evidence. And another 30% is the bahagian F, keterlibatan pelajar. So this is the student's involvement. So this is a part that we need to see your portfolio. This is a part where we want to really see the evidence. And it is divided into 3 categories, right? Cognitive, psychomotor, affective. Yeah, so you start explaining, provide evidence. Yeah, so see about okay, for this one is the submission actually summarized. Remember, we talked about the triple I model. So a triple I model, how it actually addresses the cognitive issues, psychomotor issues, affective issues in providing a meaningful learning experience for students. This is another example. Yeah, we talk about the heart, the head, and the hands. And so actually, so we talk about this is cognitive, this is psychomotor, this is affective. So make it so easy to understand, right? Make it so easy for the panel to appreciate your work. Another example, students' involvement, you provide data, right? Provide data. So I provide, for example, student involvement, students are able to generate profits. How many students are involved? 74 students, there are 6 groups, 7 weeks of operation, and these are the total sales generated. This is one part. And then on your right-hand side, you can, this is for Maya. From if it's online learning, then you show statistics of your daily active students. How is the involvement? How much time they spend? What is the completion? So all these are the strong evidence to show about your students' involvement. Yeah, and then the last part is about impact. Impact is important. Impact is the part that we enjoy the most, and the impact is the part that I think is the common weakness in all the submissions also. There is no point for you to talk about how good, how chunky, how innovative your innovation is without able to provide us the evidence. So we really want to know your evidence. So we have G1, G2, G3. Basically, it's different evidence. The first evidence is about the pengetahuan, knowledge. Second one is their skills. Third one is about the social part, kemahiran social, the social competency. So you need to provide the evidence. Let me show you some example. So the first one is about the knowledge. Right? Then you talk about how many percent of the students improve their critical thinking, improve their problem-solving skills. This is the awards they have received. There are some articles that I've shared, some feedback from my students based on their reflection. Yeah, this is the impact. And then impact is about your collaboration with industries. Impact is about, if you talk about this is a face-to-face immersion, right? Then the students now set up their own business. This innovation was recognized in other competition as well. Show us about what are the various impact that you have made from this innovation. Yeah. Yes, so I've covered the 3 main parts. I've covered about the what are the common mistakes, which I'm going to highlight again. I covered about what are the elements the panel are looking at. We look at number 1 is your pendekatan, your approach. We look at also another 30, 30, 30. Yeah, the 3 parts all are equally important. And now we go for some of the common mistakes. Number 1 is need to make sure that there is endorsement from the university. Yeah, so if there is no endorsement, you will be how to say, we'll put your submission aside, right? So all the urus setia will just put it aside without getting the panel to evaluate. So in other words, meaning you actually get disqualified at the first stage already. Number 2 is the deadline. Deadline is important. We always hear from the urus setia to say that after 5 p.m. also we still receive some submission. Yeah. So right now, I think we are moving towards this online submission. I believe Akri is also working on this as well, because AAN, the Anugerah Academic Negara, are all fully online already. Yeah, so I heard from Dr. Wan, the GPT also, for the Akri also, we are going to use a similar system for submission. So with the online submissions, I think it'll be easier. So you no need to no need to actually post your submission or send your submission physically. Again, we are not sure about the actual practice. We need to wait until the application is open for submission. Yeah. So these are some of the I would say some common mistake. Yeah. Number one is don't use the URL. It's very long URL. Right. Previously, because it's a hard copy submission, yeah, and then you submit and then you put your URL so long, and then how do you expect panel to go and type the URL, right? So you can actually put a QR code there, right? Or you can put the short URL there. But if it's online submission, it's easier. You can just put the short URL and then we can just click on it. Yeah. Make sure that we are able to access the file. Some put Google Drive, then we click on it and say, okay, ask for permission. The moment we see ask for permission, meaning we are not going to read it. All right, because we are not going to ask permission on the spot. Yeah, and then you know, oh, all right, Lim is the one that evaluate my portfolio. And then you know who are the panel already, so we don't. And QR code, yes, I think QR code is mainly for the hard copy submission. QR code, but if it's an online submission, I think you don't need QR code because we are actually reading a portfolio online already. You don't need another QR code, then you have to use handphone to scan it. You can just put URL, we can just click on the URL. Right? And also make sure that you follow the bilangan patah perkataan. Yeah. So if it's not more than 200, you don't give us 400 words because we are not going to read as well. Yeah. But what are the other ways? If let's say you have a lot of things you want to share and there are only 200 words, then we are going to advise you to put infographic, all right, put some diagrams. So these are some of the tips we learn from the submission also. Yeah, you say, sometimes some people just follow 200 words, I just put 200 words. But some people actually, on top of 200 words, I give you infographic, I give you diagrams. Yeah, to impress or to make your submission more, to strengthen your submission. So this is some of the best practices that I think we can learn from the previous winner. Yeah, so make sure that all these components, right, make sure all these components, you meet all the requirements. Yeah, for example, yeah, ada synopsis, yeah, ada rationale, ada pendekatan, ada keterlibatan, right? You got the bukti, you got the impact, right? And also got the link, everything. Yeah, and yes, I think this is another the common issues based on the 2019's experience. Yeah, permohonan tanpa link. Right? There are no link. We can't really see. No tanpa chalk from the DC. Permohonan tanpa surat turun kuasa. Yeah, permohonan menggunakan borang lama. Yeah, so these are the common mistakes. Yeah, and also the late submission as well. Okay, so before I go for the Q&A, if you have anything to ask me, right, I would like to actually share with you 2 photos to motivate you. Yeah, these are all our Taylor's academics in Akri 2019. Yeah, so yeah, they have won. I think some of them won first prize and won second prize. You can see there, and all these are not the first time submission. I want to highlight to all of you also. Right, some of them actually go through our internal competition. So they are our winners in the internal winner. Then they strengthen their submission. Then they go for the Akri. Yeah, some of them they previously in 2018 they joined and then tak dapat. Then they join again in 2019. Yeah. So this is again another 2018 as well. Yeah. So I like the idea about organizing this, I would say, sharing session to promote to the academics. At the same time, also, I think more important is perhaps to get those who are interested, and all to identify who are the potential one, get them to bring the innovation and discuss to see what other improvements, what other evidence they need, so that we are able to really translate their innovation into a submission. Otherwise, everybody will still think that, all right, I'm not ready to go. All right, I will try next year. Don't wait. All right, why? And if you ask me another tips, why tailors can win, right, in all these competitions? Because the first time in 2016, when we have this APRS, I really encourage my colleagues to join already. Right? So when the competition is just started, I think it's easier to win. Because not many submissions. Right now, I think, especially for the last 2 years or so, everyone is talking about immersive learning. So it may be difficult. But if you don't participate, you wait for another 3 more years later, I think it's getting harder and harder because more and more people know about the winning tips. More and more people know about how to participate. And also there are also, basically it's don't wait. Don't wait. Don't wait. And so thank you. All right. That's some sharing from me. I hope that it is useful for all of you.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much, Associate Professor Dr. Lim. Okay, actually, I have 2 questions from my side. However, I'm open the session to the floor first. If there is any questions from the floor.
If you have any, if you have any
questions for you.
No, I'm talking for the rest. If let's say you have any ideas, you're not sure whether this is an innovation or not, you can just share with us your idea as well. For example, if you think about, I've done something about, for example, virtual reality. So if you have done something about virtual reality, but it's actually at a very smaller scale only, is this considered as the innovation or not? We can discuss further. Sometimes innovation start very small, then you just talk about that small part only. Because if you look at the previous winner also, I don't think it's something very great. Great in the sense of it's not actually delivered throughout your 14 weeks one. The innovation maybe covered only one learning outcome. And this one learning outcome, you deliver it only during the 2 weeks time only. Right? But this is something very impactful. So it is considered an innovation.
I see. Great. Dr. Lim, I was actually to ask you on the forms that you showed to us just now, whereby you did mention about the member. You did inform us not to include everyone. Okay, let's say during this teaching session, for myself, I give an example, the one that I did with my elective session. Is it okay? There in my team, there will be myself as the main coordinator. I have another co-lecturers. At the same time, I have the students. In order for me to, let's say, I'm interested to participate in this competition, will my students become the member, or the members is actually from the academic side only? This is something that I have queries on it. Because I'm very new with these things, Akri.
For the Akri, so far we have not seen any students become the members, which is very different from IUCEL. IUCEL, we'll get students to be members, but for Akri, no, because we want to know what is their role. Unless you are saying that for example, I take again the VR. All right, if this VR virtual reality is actually co-designed by your students, yes, then you can put their name. But if they are students, no. Normally, who are the people that we invite? For example, this is your project. You work with 1 or 2 colleagues, then you can put your colleagues as the member. But 3 of you, you are not good in infographic. Correct or not? You got a lot of ideas, but you don't know how to present it in an infographic manner. Then you can invite someone, all right, who know nothing about the project, but I'm, for example, I'm just the multimedia designer, all right, to help you to just design your infographic. Then we can involve them in. Right? Or another one is to help you to do the video shooting. And that colleagues, then we put their name in. to appreciate them. So at least we know, okay, this colleague is mainly on enhancing the slides and infographic. This colleague is video production specialist. Yeah. So that we want to actually tap on other expertise to help us to strengthen. And otherwise, if it just depends on 2 or 3 lecturers, especially if, let's say, 3 of you are teaching, let's say, for example, I'm just taking mathematics. Yeah, what I know is only mathematics only. Right. So I need someone who's outside my field who can help me to enhance my presentation.
All right. Okay. My second questions. I believe that when you show to us all those pictures from the Taylor staff who did involve in the Akri and won the award, can you share with us how do you actually empower and motivate your staff at least to be productive, meaning that they really put an effort to be part of this competition? How do you do that since you are the director of the learning institution?
Beginning is difficult, right? Especially when started in 2016 is difficult. Yeah, because they have not seen the success stories yet. Yeah, for the last 2 years, much more easier already, because we already got a lot of what we call this as ambassador for us already. Those already won awards, now they become our spokesperson, and then they know that, okay, all right, some of my colleagues won last year, all right, I want to be the same as them. So it's much more easier now. How do we actually encourage participation? Let's talk about in 2016 or 2017. We have internal competition. We have internal competition. So the competition is something very similar like Akri, but at a smaller scale. Right? So we also ask them for the innovation. Right? We ask them for what is the rationale, what is the involvement of students. Then we give prizes as well. So this number one is we call this our internal one. We call this a mass award. Right? A mass award. Yeah. So we have this. Just look at innovation. One small little innovation. Number two is also we appoint like e-learning, or we call this as the e-learning educators in different schools, right? Or we call it distinguished learning educators in each of the schools to promote innovation, right? To promote, and these are the champions. So the center will work with these champions to give them support, right? To give them support, to give them exposure. So meaning before they come for the Akri, actually, we already send them to see already. Right? Send them to go and have a look at, this is how the finalists, how they present, how they pitch their idea. And so we actually expose them first. So meaning you need to identify who are in the pipeline that are going for this competition. Then a year before, we started to expose them already. Yeah, and I believe also like last time for AN also, we actually invited some of the winners, right, to come and explain to us in a one-to-one manner as well. So meaning one-to-one here, meaning we identify these are the 4 potential. These are the 4 potential one. Right? Then we get the previous winner to come and coach them. Yeah,
okay,
so that to give them and
yes. The motivation here, the key factor is planning. I can see that how do you plan ahead before the actual date of the Akri competition, whereby you did prepare your staff 1 year before the actual date. And I believe that, to be frank, I just got to know about Akri this year. I'm still not familiar, but listening to your advice, I would say that, yeah, do not procrastinate. You think you are almost there, just keep going. And thanks for your answer. I still welcome any questions. If there are any questions from the floor, I believe there is no more question, Dr. Lim. Thank you for your meaningful advice, your sharing ideas, and I mean, we really benefit from it. Okay, Prof. Man, are you ready for your next session? Prof. Maan?
Inshallah.
Inshallah. All right. Okay, actually, we are a bit earlier than our pre-scheduled plan, but it's okay. We just continue with your session. Now, I would like to continue the sharing session by Prof. Dr. Ma'an Fahmi Rashid Al-Khatib under the category Pentaksiran Alternative. But before that, let me introduce a little bit on Dr. Ma'an. A little bit about his profile. Dr. Ma'an Al-Khatib is a professor in chemical engineering. He gained his BSc in chemical engineering from University of Jordan and pursued his master degree in UKM and obtained his PhD from UPM. He is currently the Deputy Dean for Academic and Internationalization in Kuliah of Engineering IIUM. His research interest spans across the areas of separation processes, water and wastewater along nanotechnology. He published more than 130 journals in various mediums, and he had graduated many PhD and MSc students. Particularly, I would like to highlight this. He won the Best Teaching Award for Science Stream in 2015, and he was the founding committee and currently a member of the Ministry of Education Specials Award for Curriculum Design and Innovative Delivery. His research in wastewater developed his passion for the environment, where he founded IIUM River of Life Group and established Friends of Sungai Pusu River to raise awareness about issues related to rivers pollution. Without further ado, the floor is yours, Prof. Ma'an. Please welcome.
Thank you very much, Sister, for this very kind introduction. Let me share my slides. Can you see my slides?
Yes, we can see your slide.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning. Let me first thank CPD for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to share with our colleagues on this component of Akri competition. I'm always pleased to be presenting after Dr. Lin because he will save a lot of my time to highlight issues related to the competition. I will just try to go through what is relevant to the category that I will be presenting about, which is an alternative assessment category. Our team is quite small compared to Dr. Lim's team. As he mentioned, his category has 3 subcategories, so they have to look into it. The members here are from various areas, from the academia and also from the industry. So it's very important for the participants to understand that there will be some people from the industry to look into your application. So for them to see how much relevant is it, really new, is it something that interesting as well from their perspective. It's not just from academic perspective. Well, this is already covered by Dr. Lim, and these are the 4 categories, and I'm going to focus on alternative assessment. So according to the guidelines from the ministry, alternative assessment is defined as the assessment methods in a non-conventional form. So since this is a national level competition, we don't expect to have conventional presentations and projects. We've also mentioned that assessment method is not limited to summative. It can be formative, authentic, assessment for learning, assessment as learning, and also the methods of assessment that succeeded in effectively transforming the assessment of a learning outcome. So it has to be at minimum 1 learning outcome. And actually, we don't advise to use more than 1 unless you really sure that your submission covers all the learning outcomes you are claiming that are achieved. Because the more learning outcomes, the more inputs and evidence that you have to provide. So 1 learning outcome is sufficient. Just focus on that and put all your effort on that learning outcome. And the method used proved to achieve at least 1 learning outcome from a particular domain, which is similar to almost all other categories. So we talk about traditional versus alternative assessment. the assessment is teacher selected, one right answer, leveled by grade, content specific. While when we talk about alternative assessment, could be student selected, multiple right answers, mastery level determined by student, content reading across multiple disciplines, progress through multiple steps, public audience, multimodal communication. So it's looking beyond the conventional and the normal assessment. So it can go around artwork, portfolios, presentations, musical compositions. I think one of the assessment or the projects presented was using music in one of the scientific as an assessment. So they combine music with, if I'm not mistaken, it was on language course, just to bring in an element to, because sometimes languages are quite dry. So to bring an element of fun and encourage students to learn, they put that element of music, performances, notebooks, and so on. So of course we can, the list can be much longer than this. These are just examples for us to relate. And I hope that during the pandemic, because we went online, I really hope that we had many new innovative assessment that has been created by our lecturers that they could contribute to this competition. The objectives, again, this is also from the guidelines. It is intended to identify alternative assessment methods which has successfully transformed the assessment of the learning outcome of a course effectively. So it is not really an early stage. You must show that the assessment that you proposed and applied, is being applied, and it has effectively achieved the objective. So it's not actually just mere submission on an idea of an alternative assessment. It has to be designed, applied, and you have a result to show its outcome. The conditions, again, similar to all others, you can apply as an individual or group, one entry per individual or group of individuals. Applicants need to submit one video of not more than 3 minutes, and I will talk about this later. And the application must be certified by the Vice Chancellor. Not many, but there are some few applications that be rejected because it's not properly signed. And the moment the applications are received by the Secretariat, they will not send it back to the institution and say a signature is missing. They will just disqualify it immediately. So this matter should be probably scrutinized at the university level by maybe like CPD can look into that to ensure that all applications follow the rules and guidelines. The assessment criteria, which also was shared by Dr. Lim, but if you notice that they are a bit of different percentages. And this is because for each criteria, the emphasis might be different. Even, I think, if I'm not mistaken, under Dr. Lim's criteria, the subcategories or sub-criteria also, the percentage vary from one to another. So for assessment, the criteria for the rationale is 10%. We talk about rationale, it is what is the motivation and the major issues or problems that motivated the rethinking and the redesigning of the alternative assessment. I will talk more about this later on. The approach, 40%, and because this is assessment, and usually assessment, it has its own designing steps. You have to go through known steps for assessment. That's why the approach is given quite high percentage. And the engagement is given 20%. Now, it's not because engagement is not important here, but we want to see engagement, but the emphasis is on the assessment itself. And we want to see the impact. So the impact is very important. How much impactful was this assessment in achieving its objectives? So, of course, when you look at these percentages, we understand how to focus and where to focus in our application. Similarly, I will go through the form, the various components of the form, and what is expected in each particular form. I'm not going to mention A. So A is the particulars of the individual applying for the application. So again, like similar, we have to list the group members. If it is a group project, if it is individual, then it will be just the applicant. Here we have to know that it's very important to mention the role of every member. So it could be expert content, proofreader, instructional designer, content developer, anything that related to the member's role. But basically the bottom line is that they don't want free riders in the project. On the project initiative, of course, the project title, and here we want to know what is the learning outcome which should be taken from the course outline of that subject. It cannot be a new learning outcome that is the applicant has come up with. It must be from the course outline, and please remember that one is sufficient. And then we need a project synopsis, which is like executive summary, and please observe the limits, because I think the submission is so far is over by Microsoft Word, so there is no way to limit the applicant from inserting certain words. So the applicant themselves must observe that. And the synopsis must be very, very clear, because you have to remember that whatever you submit will not be kind of checked, and then people call you and say, we don't understand this, can you please clarify what do you mean by this and that? The application will be evaluated based on what is submitted. There's no more clarification that will be required by the applicant. And also, there is a video, as I mentioned earlier. Applicants can actually required to submit a 3-minute video. Oh, sorry, this is about the proof. Okay. Yeah, this is about the video, sorry, because there are two. I will talk about the other one later on. So you're required to submit 3 minutes video, and this video is basically not to say what you have mentioned in your synopsis. It's like you can repeat something from what you have written in your synopsis, but it's more on saying what you could not write. And actually, this video has been proposed to the Secretariat based on our experience that sometimes we see something good from the presentation, because after shortlisting there will be a presentation or pitching later on. So in the pitching, they are able to say things which were not mentioned in the application, which could have made the application even better. So in order to give the participants or the applicants the opportunity, this video is given to them to say what they cannot write. Sometimes you cannot write. You can express things by saying or by showing more than writing it into a synopsis. So I hope that will be utilized in a proper way. And the next one is on the rationale, and here we're talking about why what are the reasons that made you as an applicant decide to come up with this alternative assessment? What is the driving force for this alternative assessment? So it could be you are looking into improving something in the process, for sure. What is that improvement that you want to achieve? Sometimes you want to, the assessment was mainly on what did the student learn. But now you want to do the assessment, so you want to redesign the assessment and propose an alternative assessment, not just to assess how the students or how much did the student learn, but you want them to learn as the assessment is going. So like, for example, we say you want it to be assessment for learning. So they are, or assessment as they are learning. So they are doing the assessment and they are learning from the assessment itself. So you could kind of combine, because sometimes the assessment is done at the end to see whether they have learned or not. But no, you want to do the assessment and you want them to learn as they are doing the assessment. It could be you want to insert more motivation into learning. Maybe the course is a bit dry, mathematics and equations, and you want to put in an element in the assessment that will make it more interesting to the students, so they will be more motivated to learn. It could be to develop capacity. Maybe you want to involve, to bring the class outside the students outside the classroom, because you want them to engage with the community. For example, you are teaching on business and administration or finance or accounting. So you want them to go out and mix and do some kind of project with the society and see how they will, through that activity and the assessment that you are doing, the students will improve their learning. So that is when we talk about why, or the rationale or the motivation beyond for this proposal or this project. Now, also we have to keep in mind that when we put the challenge, we need to look at aspects like, is it a significant problem that you are addressing? Because these are important. You know that the issue you address could be very limited to your course or to your class. But if it is more significant, that it can really benefit more people, even not only in your field, could also be benefit other fields, that could also be a good, it could better to quote marks for the rationale. And it can be actually go beyond your classroom or even beyond your faculty. All right. So these are some of the improvement that you want to insert into the rationale. And then the objectives, of course, the objectives, as we know, when we put the rationale, then we say these are the objectives of my project. They must be very clear objectives. So you can say achieve learning through assessment, involvement of community in the assessment. It must, as objective, they must have the objective characteristics. And later on, we want to see these objectives achieved into the next elements of the proposal. The next part is on the approach. If you can see that almost most of the elements in the form are similar. It's just how you need to write it to suit the criteria or the category you are applying for. I will highlight certain issues with this category actually that we face from some applicants. So the approach, we have to look at, we have to explain if this alternative assessment project is in line with learning outcome. So you have to explain that. How is it in line with the learning outcome? Also, you need to include the course assessment plan. You see, in this category, we have quite a number of requirement in terms of providing plans and flows, charts, and so on. Because this is assessment, you plan, you must come up with a clear plan for the assessment. So the assessment starts from the rationale. Why is this proposed? Then what are the steps that you have followed to come? I mean, I think those who are in education, they know clearly that what kind of steps that we need to have into the assessment plan. And I'm not from education, so usually I will refer to my colleagues in education to help me to sort this thing out, because they have much stronger background in the theoretical part of assessment. All right. So one of the very important elements here is that, because this is assessment, remember, and when we put the learning outcome, usually we relate or we map the learning outcome to the Bloom taxonomy: cognitive, psychomotor, and affective. So you must make sure that your assessment is in line with the learning outcome. You can have the learning outcome to be cognitive, and your assessment is on the affective or psychomotor. So it must be in line with the learning outcome that is being measured. Under the approach also, we need to look at, you need to explain whether this idea is original idea or adaptation. The approach that you use is, it is an applied model, something that is there, existed in the literature, people have used it, and you are just using it as it is. Or did you take a certain alternative assessment and you modified this assessment? One of the ways that you can look at is, you can look at the Summer model, the substitution, augmentation, modification, redefinition. So which category your alternative assessment goes under which one? Is it substitution, meaning that you just take the assessment and you substitute one element, or it is totally redefined? So you, for example, you take Kahoot and you do some modification on Kahoot, you use it in a different way, or you take Kahoot and you apply it in a totally different manner. That makes like, oh, we didn't know that Kahoot can be used this way, for example. So that could be like redefinition. So this is important to explain it well, and usually the more novel it is, it will of course carry more weightage, and be aware that it's not wrong that it is adapted from another model. It's not like going to be, oh, this is adapted from another model, it's accepted. Of course it's not. You can adapt from another model. What is the level of originality? So you have to explain through your proposal. You can use flowchart, and one of the issues that we face is that the novelty is not well explained. You couldn't see, I mean, if we want to know how novel it is, we have to go back to the literature and search. And of course, the committee will not do that. So you need to explain that very well. For example, sometimes they say it's adapted from a certain model, but they don't mention that clearly, or they don't elaborate clearly on how it is adapted and what differences they have introduced into the adapted model. And lack of evidence of originality. They claim it's original and so on, but they do not provide the evidence for that. So this is a very one at this point requires an evidence to show what you claim. Also under the approach, we ask what types or forms of assessments are used. So these are important also. And sorry, again, please, I'm not going to mention this all the time, but you have to always observe the limits of the number of words that you have to include in each criteria. So here, how is suitable to measure the selected learning outcome? Is this approach or this assessment suitable to measure the learning outcome? For example, you talk about society and engagement with the society. The assessment should be in line with this approach. If you talk about you want to encourage high order thinking, then probably open book exams can be one of the means that you use, or take home exams. So whatever approach that you use or assessment that you use, it should be suitable to measure the learning outcome. And number 4 is under approach is describe the planning, development, and implementation of alternative assessment applied together with appropriate evidence, and include the developed assessment rubric. So you can see it's up to the rubric, you have to show. Actually, not only up to the rubric, you have to show up to even executing the rubric and using the rubric and assessing the learning based on the assessment that has been proposed. So every step must be shown, and you can use here a flow chart or a diagram to explain. So for E3 and 4, you need to show the plan, the alternative assessment processes, methods, tools, criteria used, the rubrics that has been developed and used, evaluation of the alternative assessment used. And please remember, this is not about teaching and learning. It's not about engagement. And here I can mention about some of the shortcomings of the proposals that we have received. Actually, quite a number of them have this problem. When they start explaining about the assessment, it's more on the activities, which can go under other categories, not under the assessment. Here we don't want to, of course, the activity could be part of the assessment, but the focus is on the assessment itself, not the activity. The students, do this activity and that activity. How did you assess? That's the most important, because this is about assessment, not the activity itself. So, of course, the activity must be in line with the assessment, but the focus is not on the activity. The focus is on the assessment. And some of the issues that there are no clear plans, no rubrics attached, and as I mentioned earlier, it is more on the teaching and learning rather than on the assessment. So also here we need evidences to show about the methods and plan and so on. The other part is on the student engagement. So we talk about rationale, we talk about approach, now we talk about student engagement. And this carries around 20%, if you remember. So here we want to see to what extent did the alternative assessment project meaningfully increase students' engagement and learning experience in terms of cognitive and or psychomotor and or affective domains. It depends on the alternative assessment you are using. And that's why we emphasize that try not to make it a complex assessment involving all the domains. Otherwise, it will be really, really challenging. Unless you are able to do that, then that's fine. But for the sake of the competition, and because your target is trying to win this competition, if you can focus on one and show all your strengths there, that will be just fine and enough. And then we need to give proof of the student engagement in the meaningful learning experience, because whatever you claim here, that how did your assessment engage students? You are claiming that your assessment engaged students, then you need to show an evidence. How did it engage students? Engage students among each other, engage students with the instructor, or engage students with the community. So any form of engagement, you need to show that, and with evidence. So you can show through logbooks, videos, discussion scripts, and so on. So these are some of the forms where you can show engagement. For example, GPA, you can show that you have a record of your students' performance over the previous semesters, and then you can show that the student GPA increased when this new alternative assessment has been introduced, because it has motivated the students to learn, and it has improved their access to knowledge and their willingness to read more and learn more, and maybe because they engage with community, that open their mind to other aspects and whatever reasons you can give. And then also students' testimony. You can ask the students through surveys or feedback forms to express their thoughts on the exercise they have gone through. You can record videos of the activities, videos of the assessment when they're doing the assessment, videos of the feedback as well. Student testimony can be written or even through recorded videos. Pictures when they are doing the activities, products if they have come out with products. Some of the applications where students from physics, they were asked to do projects which are solving issues related to customers. So they have to go meet consumers or the community, and then they discuss with them, and they use their knowledge in physics to come up with projects that will solve the needs of the customers. So here, of course, the activity is coming out with models and so on, using their physics, the knowledge in physics, but we are not looking at the product, we're not looking at the engagement per se, we are looking at the assessment. But this is part of the evaluation. That how did this assessment that you're using is engaging the students? So probably here, the assessment is, if I can recall, it was involving the consumers as well. So the consumers have to comment on the product and give evaluation to the students' performance, how they explain and the product quality and so on. So this is one way of encouraging the students to use their knowledge and apply it rather than just keep it in a theoretical form. Right? Again, evidence here is needed. You cannot claim engagement without showing evidence. I think this is before last, maybe, or I think before last, of the impact on students' learning. How did this impact? So remember, this was 20%, this is 30%. The impact on student learning. How far will this alternative assessment project assess the actual capabilities of students in achieving course learning outcome compared to the previously adopted assessment method? And how far this assessment project can be disseminated in terms of users from different fields and or outside the institution. So this is on the capabilities of the student. How did it really improve? How much it really improved? And here is on how how you can use this alternative assessment outside your classroom, outside your subject, in other subjects, in other even fields, in other kuliah, and maybe in other universities. So this alternative assessment is very effective and impactful, that it can be shared to everyone, and they can actually use it in their field. So it doesn't matter if it comes from somebody from engineering, somebody from medicine can also use this particular assessment. So it's not limited to a field or even a course, it can go beyond. So the more you can, of course, here you can discuss more than probably if you can have an evidence, especially on the impact on the students. If you have an evidence on G2, it will be a bonus. For example, you published it in papers, you presented to other, to other institutions, and maybe even you shared it with other colleagues from other institutions or other kuliah, and they used it and they have shown that it also improved the students' learning. So these are different levels of how you can show the impact on the dissemination. But of course, the impact on the student, it must be shown clearly. Again, these are some of the forms that you can show to show the impact on the students' learning. And again, on this one is on how far can this alternative assessment project be beneficial. For example, on cost savings, time savings, reusing, sustainability, and stakeholder engagement. So these are some of the areas where you can discuss on the impact of the project. And again, this is also an evidence-based criteria. So you need to show, for example, if it is cost saving, you claim that this alternative assessment will save cost. How can you prove that? So you need to show this. It doesn't, I mean, you don't have to show receipts, probably just explain how much cost you've been putting before and now with this alternative assessment. All right. I think that's all from me, and thank you very much. I try to be as concise as possible, but at the same time, sufficient information hopefully is provided. And if there's any question, please feel free to ask. Thank you. Back to you, sister.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Ma'an, for your sharing session. Another eye-opening for me myself, and I believe to the audience as well. Okay, Prof, I just open up the questions to the floor first. If there is no any, I will ask you, because I have a lot of curiosity in terms of the conducting of alternative assessment. Okay, my dear colleagues, is there any question from you? I heard one of the participants like opening the mic, but I'm not sure whether to ask question or not. Okay, if there is no any, actually I have one question in terms of alternative assessment. Okay, Prof, as you realize that we are in the middle of pandemic COVID-19, and I believe some students has difficulty in assessing the examination sometimes because they were quarantined, they were back at home, whereby they are supposed to be in the university, but they are back at home because of having some sort of contact. Okay, let's say if in that particular course outline, the final exam, it is supposed to be like a face-to-face method, but due to this restriction, we have to change the assessment into an open book test. Of course, the rubric of measurement will be different in like a face-to-face final examinations, where it took place in the examination hall. We have the marking rubric, but then we shifted into the alternative method, the open book test. So will this be considered as a strategy for alternative assessment that is, relevant for this award? Thank you. That is my first question.
Okay, thank you, sister, for the question. Just before I answer this, going back to your first comment, one of the very important aspects to join this competition is to decide and to plan to join the competition, because you cannot just ad hocly say I want to join the competition this year, because as you can see, it requires a lot of evidence. So you need actually to plan to say I want to join this competition. So you have to make decision now today to say I want to apply for this regardless of which category. You have to decide that I want to join this competition today, and then you start working on it. Probably you can look at one course you're teaching, what is the learning outcome you want to look at, and then see what you have done so far, see what evidences you have from the previous semesters you have taught, and what you want to do to improve, and then what kind of evidences you want to collect. As you can see, it's you must always have evidence regardless of the category. So planning is very, very important. Coming back to your question, of course, because you change your assessment to another form of assessment. If you say open book, of course, also again, if you go back to the literature, you will find various theories about open book exam and how they can improve this and that as a higher order thinking. It can be utilized. The only thing, coming back to the requirement, you must show your plan for that assessment. And again, let me tell you, I think your sister, you're from pharmacy or from
Yes, I'm from pharmacy.
Pharmacy, right? Me and you are not really kind of illiterate when we want to talk about detailed, coming back with the detailed assessment plan, right? So it's very easy. Just call one of our colleagues from education and say, I'm doing this and I need you to help me to put the plan. And of course, that member can be part of the team that, when you apply for the competition. So they will guide us on what are the steps that we need to do. So as you are doing this transformation, try to see how you can put it into proper documentation. So to go to the competition, you need proper documentation. If you just do it by just transforming from face-to-face, paperwork, paper-based to open book without any proper documentation showing what have you done and with all the criteria that I've shared just now, it will be difficult to join them in the competition. But yes, the answer is yes.
All right. Okay, Prof. Ma'an, do you mind to share any course that you've been conducted for this kind of alternative assessment, which you have already submitted to for this award? I mean, Akri award participation. I mean, when you show your course outline, how do you do it? Maybe we can grasp the idea better.
Okay, I have been on this committee since the beginning, so I cannot join the competition. So we can only join after one cool period, 1 year cool period. So if I want to join next year, and I think I can join next year if I don't want to be in the committee because it's already 2 years cool period. But if one of the method I use in teaching and learning, and also it affects the assessment, is the teaching and learning I use is more on the flipped class method. So because when you do flipped class, then the assessment also has to be different. So what I do is that I prepare my class usually for each topic or chapter. I will have 5 elements in my folder for that chapter. The first one is what are the topics that will be discussed. Number 2, I will prepare something I call it flip questions. So flip questions are kind of questions the students need to answer before they come to the class, which means that they have to go through the material and answer these questions. Now, I'm not expecting them to answer all the questions. It's just to trigger their thinking. So when they come to the class, they are not blank. At least they have gone through the material and they have kind of tried to, and of course the questions I put in that document are not straightforward questions. It will be more on triggering thinking. So they have to go and read and think, and if they cannot answer, that means, oh, let me go and check. So it will trigger that kind of learning, and that will bring more questions to the class. So those who really do, they will come back. The next class will be full of questions. That's why in the class I don't really teach, because it's more on discussing rather than teaching, because they already have kind of some knowledge. And of course, I know some students will never touch and so on. So I will kind of address the needs of these students to some extent. So the assessment will be kind of before and also during the class. I will also do some kind of quizzes, or like from Kahoot or on PowerPoint, I will use ClassPoint. So they will be answering questions, or they will be doing exercises in the class. Right? So but unfortunately, I'm not doing any documentation of this. That's kind of the sad part of it.
Okay, as you mentioned, evidence. We need to provide the evidence. Okay, Prof. What about your Sungai Pusu project? It seems that it's kind of community engagement. Did you do any assessment method for your students? Did you ask your students to get involved in that project and conduct an assessment?
I do through seminar course, but for the courses I teach are not really very much relevant. But I'm happy to share that some other colleagues from Kuliah of Law, from the human sciences are doing that actually. They are asking the students to, I almost every semester I will receive like 5 to 10 emails from students from different, even not even from engineering, who are asking about, they want to discuss and meet and interview and do a visit and so on. And this is part of their projects for their course. And of course, in engineering also, we have funny projects, we have integrated design projects, we have even courses which are directly related to environment and water, hydraulics, which are some of them are conducted even on site for the students.
I see. Interesting. Meaning that you open for collaboration for that. I believe this is good justification, right?
Yes,
If
yes,
you were
it
about
is
to
actually.
submit for the award.
Yes.
Meaning that it extends to the other kuliah, in fact. Okay, thank you, Prof. Ma'an, for such an inspirational and eye-opening for myself, in fact, because I'm very new to all this award and the category. I'm not familiar. And to be frank, this session is actually very, very helpful to give me, an opportunity. Perhaps if you want to submit for the awards application, you must start plan at least this year, because if you never plan for 1 year ahead, like Dr. Lim suggested before, meaning that you cannot prove what is the changes, and particularly we are talking about changes in according to Bloom's taxonomy, whereby it involves the cognitive, the affective, psychomotor. Of course, this takes time to prove that it's really significant. It's not just mind whatever you want to do, you just do it on the spot, whereby you of course cannot measure it correctly, right? Thank you very much, Prof, and to all the participants. We are really, I hope this session really give you something and eye-opening, and thank you to CPD to allow us, to invite me to be the moderator for the session and open this to the other lecturers or academicians to listen the input from our speakers today. Without further ado, I think I'm going to adjourn this session by Tan Speaker Farah and Surah to us. Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
Welcome. Assalamualaikum, everybody. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum.